Parents, welcome back to the Parenting Athletic Kids podcast. Really excited about having Kevin and Alex on the podcast today. They have recently written and released a book, and I'm going to let them talk about it a little bit more. We'll get into all the details about that. But two guys who are in it deep as far as parenting athletic kids go, and have just a great depth of knowledge in the area, sports, kids, putting it all together. So let's dive in. Welcome, guys. Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, what brought you here?
Yeah, life, really, Travis. So just grew up loving sports, particularly basketball is my thing. I'm a little guy. I'm not even 5'11", praying to hit a growth spurt one day, but just always loved the game, loved playing. It became something I became known as being good at from a fairly young age. And just in our small town. And so played high school basketball, won a state championship, played Division I basketball, went to the Philippines, played pro basketball, thought I'd play a year or two. So I played for 10, said I would never coach. So I coached for 12. So lived in the Philippines 22 years, got to be a head pro basketball coach, coached with the national team as well. So got to travel the world a bit. That was fun. Started Nike Elite basketball camp with a good friend of mine, Coach Eric Altamirano. That was for the top high school players in the country, and started something called the NBTC with him that he's still running really well now. That's a tournament that has like 15,000 kids who play in it, and is an international tournament. I have 3 kids, got an awesome wife, like all 3 of us on here. I got a great wife. I got 3 kids. My boys are 13 and 12. Love playing sports. My oldest son just had his first tackle football practice yesterday. So that's an adventure. They love, between the 2 boys and my daughter's 10, they love basketball, football, baseball, volleyball. They're kids. They love sports. So, yeah, that's a little bit of my background. And crazy thing, sorry, when I was playing, I played college basketball at Cornell University. When I was there, my course was human development and family studies. So there's just a bunch of things in my life that unintentionally kind of came together, and led to us writing this book. So that's a little bit of my background.
Love it. Love it. We'll get in a little bit more, but that's a great snapshot. Kevin, you're up.
First, thanks for having me. We appreciate it. It's been a great journey just writing this book. A little background on me. Played college basketball at Vanguard University, played 4 years there, thoroughly enjoyed it, great time. Met my wife over there. Then I went and played basketball in the Philippines. That's where I was able to meet Alex, and had a great time out there, got to meet a lot of people, and then transitioned from there. Coached a little bit out there at a small school out there, and then worked my way back into the States. And now I've been coaching here in the States. I think I'm approaching my 15th, 16th season. I've coached girls, high school girls, and currently coaching high school boys. And so then this coming year will be the first time I actually get to coach my son in high school. And so that will be a parenting adventure as I get to navigate that. I have a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old, 2 boys, a beautiful wife. And they have taught me so much on this parenting journey as we wrote this book. And so, again, thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Well, let's get into it. So I was, parents out there listening, and I was talking to these guys beforehand a little bit about where we take this podcast. And I think a couple areas, and as you mentioned this, Alex, and kind of this, and both you guys, the kids are into sports. I want to know what, out of the gate, like what you guys value so much about sports. So my kids were in it, and one of my kids is kind of at the end of the amateur piece of this, just graduated from college. And so I've been doing a lot of reflection on like, why sports? Why did we pick baseball? How did he pick baseball? And just thinking about, there's so many other avenues parents can help their kids lead down, whether it's science or math or debate or whatever. Like, why have you do you think you guys have led your kids into sports, and what is the value that maybe sports provides as opposed to other areas that they could have gotten into? Alex, start with you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I personally have gotten so much out of sports in my own life, and a lot of that has to do with way more than wins and losses, or any kind of pay or anything like that. It's the camaraderie. It's the coming together for a common goal. It's the fact that my wife and I have always felt like our kids need to play in team sports, specifically any sport, but really want them in team sports, because there's an aspect of team sports that requires me to submit my goals to the greater goals. And most of the things that you're going to do in life that are of great value involve other people. And you're going to need to work in a family, right? And you don't always get to put your stuff first in the family. You're going to work in a community, in your neighborhood, in an organization. You're going to spend time with people, and that coming together around a common goal and learning how to navigate the, like, but I really want to do this, but we need this, right? There's things that, my whole family's in education there. And so I'm super pro academics, like throw your kids into everything that they can help. But there's a level of sport, getting back to your question, there's a level of joy and passion in sport that I never had in math class, that I never had in English, that I never had in social studies. I thought social studies was interesting. Loved my major, human development and family studies. It's basically developmental psychology, really interesting. But I wasn't going to be willing to go injure myself to get an extra credit or something there. Like there's something about that passion that you have in playing a sport that really lends itself to then the character development and the long-term benefits that you get for understanding how to work with people, how to lead people when you need to step back. For us, so there's a lot there, but that's, for me, really, I wanted my kids to get those same lessons. And I don't care, honestly, I'm sure you're probably the same way, Travis. I don't care if they play varsity high school. I don't care if they play, like, I want them to love it, to understand, and then to go. And if they want to put the time in, I got their back. And then if they don't, and they find another passion, they want to be in the debate team, awesome, I got their back. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, stop me from rambling.
No, Kevin, good luck following that up.
Yeah. I think when we were new parents and we talked about, our kids are going to play sports. Um, One of the conversations I recall with my wife was, I understand the culture of sports. And so we were talking, like, I don't know skate culture. I don't know dance culture. I don't know those type of cultures, but I do know sports culture, and more specifically basketball culture. And so as a parent, I was comfortable putting my kid in a culture that I understood so that I could help him navigate through that. And I already know some of the pitfalls, some of the temptations, those type of things. So I remember that conversation early, because we're like, oh, do we do this? Do we do that? And I remember just saying, one thing nice is I just know sports. And so you know what you know, and that's a comfortable situation for us. So when we was about 3 or 4, I remember that conversation happening. And then on top of that, we know we put them in different opportunities that aren't just sports. But then what I kind of look back and I'm actively in right now is what sports provide us, other than what Alex has already shared, which is the character and the hard work and those things, which are just tremendous, and those are important. But one thing that I've noticed from my family is sports becomes an opportunity for us to bond. And so I have one kid who's playing, I have another kid who's doing the film. And when I watch the film, you hear the passion that the younger brother has for the older brother, or the older brother as he's coaching the younger brother. And then you have mom over there, who's coming to the games and bringing him peanut butter sandwiches and making sure he eats right. And then I'm helping coach. And then aunts and uncles come. And then for our setup, I have one brother who's a physical therapist. And so he helps his physical journey, give him workouts and things like that. I have another brother who's a basketball skills trainer, so he does skills training with him. And so beyond just those other things that are core to becoming, helping build his character and who he is, sports has become a family thing that we get to all just enjoy together. And that's something that's important to me. And there's times when I am so upset after a game, right? They don't perform to the perfection expectations that we are requiring of them, which we shouldn't be, but we are. And then sometimes I'll just look back and go, wow, I have an hour and a half with my family in the car where it's just the four of us. Do I want to spend that ripping him? Or do I want to go, hey, we can do better. All right, we can talk about this later, but where do you guys want to go eat? What are we going to do for fun? And so that family involvement is something that I'm truly cherishing now as my kids are slowly working their way out of our house.
That's beautiful. Both of you guys crushed that. And as you were, Kevin, going through that, I reflect off, and I'm sure you guys have the Google photos or whatever that pop up on your iPad. And just yesterday, the day before, I was like, man, like 99% of these are sports and us as a family at some tournament in Florida or whatever. And just how cool that is. And to have the awareness to enjoy that in the moment, like, is super powerful. Not just to scroll back 10 years ago and be like, oh, that was cool, right? Understanding, which can be hard, I think, understanding while you're in that tournament, while you're in that car ride, like, let me be in this tournament, let me enjoy this car ride. So super cool. Next question, and we talked about this a little beforehand, but why, for the listeners out there, I told these guys this. I was just talking to my dad and telling him about the podcast and the book, and we were talking. He's like, I didn't have to worry about these things. This is what my dad's saying. I don't even know what you're doing. Like, why are you doing this right now? And I think parents out there understand, like, the culture has changed, right? The three of us understand from when our parents just dropped us off at the park, or we hopped on our bikes and went to the park. And my dad said, I don't remember telling you anything. Like, what did I ever tell you? And he told me two things. He told me, listen to your coach. And I remember specifically, and I brought this up to him, after I had a game, and it was a rough game, baseball, it was American Legion, I can't remember exactly, but it was a rough game. Must have struck it out a couple times. I got in the car with my dad, and he said, even Babe Ruth struck out once in a while. Those are like the two things I remember him saying. And now I think about all the things that I've said to my kids. Anyway, where is the culture in sports right now that is necessary, maybe strong, but why have we written books to help parents? Why is this important? Is it important in this day and age that we're starting to be a little bit more mindful of how we're interacting with our children, the things that we are or aren't telling them, etc. Alex, your thoughts?
Yeah, so great question. I know Kevin and I, our journey, we're sports guys too. And if there is anybody watching who doesn't know your background, you've got a super background, Travis, in sports and just catching and playing and everything that you did in baseball, and then even your studies afterwards and then running the training. And so you're really an expert in this field. But a close friend of Kevin and I, he wrote a book called Wisest Learners for Parents. Now, our friend's an educator. He's an ed psych PhD, and he co-authored it with a cognitive neuroscientist, a European guy, Dr. Artyom. So Dr. Wallace is our friend from the Philippines, and Dr. Artyom is a cognitive neuroscientist in Europe. And they did something really cool. They wrote a book that they took all the top research that they could find from other people. They got behind a firewall, and they found out there was a lot of great research there that had not gotten out. And they wanted to create a holistic learning model to help parents, help kids learn better academically. And so they wrote this fantastic book. It's called Wisest Learners for Parents. It's really brilliant and wonderful and humbly written, as all of us parents should be humble, right? We can have convictions, but none of us get it perfect all the time, right? And from there, Wallace approached Kevin and I, we've all been friends for 2 decades now, and said, hey, you guys should write one for parents of athletes. And it was not a hard ask. We have seen, as I'm sure you have, Travis, we've seen the extremes, right? The completely uninvolved parents who don't care. and the kids he gets no support. And then the parents who are micromanaging every single little thing, and the boy or girl is getting screamed at 8 years old. I told you to stay low, right? And that's not most parents. Most of us are somewhere in the middle. But there's not really like a course, right? Like when you got married, like we didn't go through a course on how to raise your children. We didn't get a degree in it. My wife and I didn't do that. And so there's things that you learn along the way in this thing that Kevin he really put it great, that we know the culture of sport. So, okay, so we understand sports and we've seen the best and the worst. We also know what we've experienced as young players. And then so we've seen parenting from multiple angles. As the coach, Kevin and I are both coaches. As the player, we both grew up in youth sports. And then as the dad, right, who's like, ooh, I was way too harsh there. I got to say sorry. And we just felt like we could probably come together with our different perspectives and share some research that we looked into, share some personal stories, put our hand up, go, let me tell you how I blew it. That was probably half of our phone call conversations in writing this book was, dude, I totally dropped the ball on this one. The research says do the opposite what I just did. So, we wanted to bring stuff out where we could share something that's readable, but also has some research and some practical tips. And then, Travis, people, I don't know, they know this. We're cousins. And it's so funny how I found out about your book, but that's a different story. But like, we have different situations and context. So we end each chapter with questions because I don't know what's best for you, Travis, and your family. I don't know. There's no way I could know. Right. And I've talked to you in the past, but so we want people to be reflective, look at best practices, and then try to figure out like, okay, how are we approaching this? And so to get back to the original point of your question, I think if we could provoke thought and intentionality instead of being reactive, oh no, we got to join this. Oh, we got to go here. Like, okay, where are we starting from? What's our values? Where are we trying to go? What do we want to accomplish through this? And so if we could promote some intentionality and some thought for parents, then we're really hoping that we can be a part of them having an awesome family experience with their kids, and their kids not being resentful when they're our age about how their parents raised them, but thinking about all the great memories they made.
Love it. Kevin.
I think simply, these are questions that I want answers to myself as a parent. And so um, it's just taking the information that we have learned and putting it in a way that's like, hey, these are questions that I had. And sometimes we're answering questions that we have, but we haven't asked, meaning like you're in there, you just don't know how to navigate those situations. Um, and then you read something in the book or you do some research and you find out, oh man, like that's something I need to address. A common one that Alex talks about in the book is, nudging or basically how do you address your child? Do you make him play sports? Do you make him do this? Or do you and those are questions every parent has. Before I wrote this book, as a principal, parents would ask me how to do that. And so I think just really simply, these are questions that parents either have asked or will end up asking, or they're just innately in them that they just want answered. And so, but with all of that said, we approach this book, and Alex already shared this, but it's not as if we have all the answers. We're saying, hey, this is what we've learned. Let me talk you through how you either applied it or didn't apply it. And then here's some questions for you to review and see what does that look like in your life. And again, simply, it's just because I had those questions, and I can't tell you how many times I picked up the phone and go, oh my gosh, Alex, you won't believe what I just did. And so I'll vent to him. And typically it turns into turning to my boy and go, hey, but I blew it. And trying to restore that part of the relationship. And so we're not here sitting, we're perfect parents. We're just saying, hey, we've learned some stuff and we're here to share it because you've probably asked some of the same questions we have.
Really good. And I'll say about the book, you guys do a great job of kind of presenting a topic, an area, some discussion on it, some research, and then having a try this kind of thing. Here are some things to implement and give a shot to. So it's super cool how that's formatted in there. I guess I want to know a little bit more about like why, in the last 10 years, this has even become a topic. Why in the last 5, 10 years, there was people, our parents were in the same, at least my parents were in the same situation. They were raising an athletic kid, somebody who was passionate about sports, played multiple sports, really got into one, at a specific, it's no different from the personal level, but it seems to be way different in other areas, right? So, but again, this wasn't, like I said, my dad, this wasn't a thing. He doesn't understand what is going on in the world that even makes this a topic of conversation. So any thoughts on that? Like what's changed? Why again, why is there a need for these books? Is there a need for this podcast, Parenting Athletic Kids? 15 years ago, what? Like we just do it. We send them out the door, so what got us to this place?
So my thought there is really an aspect of it. The two biggest aspects is first the professionalization of youth sports, right? Trainers galore everywhere, enrollment, facilities, opportunities for kids to be in gymnastics, golf lessons, tennis lessons, basketball lessons, biathlon. Like take the sport and you can go sign up for a program. And so that whole point is I'm not against it, right? Because my kids participate in a lot of these things. But with the whole FOMO behind that, the fear of missing out, the like, oh, my kid might need to be in this. I think as a society, so that's the first thing, professionalization. But then as a society, we've never been in a place where kids have more pressure. And that doesn't mean that it's from us. But I'll give you an example. I remember being in the Philippines, and I'm not a big guy, right? When I graduated high school, 145 pounds, massive amount of man, 140 pounds, and I fall over, like I wasn't a big guy. But I remember hearing about people talking about bullying and what a problem bullying is. And I thought, I had guys try to bully me before. Like, can't be that bad. But I didn't understand that this thing follows the kids home. And that the bullying on the social media can be piled on and multiplied and nonstop. And people can live in your head when you're living on the social media, right? Well, that applies in the sports realm as well. And so our kids have never faced more pressure. We've never had more opportunities. And this is actually connected to some of the research in the book, is that there's some freedom of choice studies by Barry Schwartz, really interesting, that well before I thought about this book really got me thinking. And that was, when we have too many options, we can get into paralysis by analysis, and we can actually lose the joy out of something that should be fun because of our FOMO, or fear of missing out. So as parents, everything's professionalized. There's so many opportunities. Our kids are getting pressured. They want to be in this. They're in social media. They're seeing this. And we're inundated with information and options and thoughts that maybe we're missing out on something. Maybe my life is getting ruined, right, as a kid. Or maybe I'm dropping the ball as a parent, because parent guilt is real, particularly mom guilt, but parent guilt is real. So I think all of those things lend itself to, hey, there's an issue. So we want to address it. And we want to help you navigate what up to this point historically has been somewhat uncharted waters. You and I, like when we were in high school, I had no cell phone. I had no internet. I wasn't tweeting. I didn't have to worry about being on Instagram. You went and you played. You were free. Well, you don't have that now. I just got back from this tournament in Toronto. And when the kids weren't playing, a bunch of them were sitting there on their phone doing Instagram stuff. And I think that's not to criticize social media. It's just that there's an issue there, that we have all these opportunities and all this information and all this pressure. We've got to navigate some new waters as parents that our parents never had to.
Really good. Kevin.
Yeah, I think that the access of information has grown significantly over the past 10 years. And so as parents, we have more information um, put in front of us, typically through that cell phone there. And so since we have more information easier, it at that point allows us to make most hopefully more informed decisions. And so back when my dad was parenting, his world was a lot smaller in terms of where he got his information from. And so now I get my information from a guy in Wisconsin, right? Two guys who lived in the Philippines. And so just the globalization and the access of information, I think, has now allowed parents to get more information and hopefully utilize that benefiting their kid on top of everything that Alex already shared, the professionalization of sports. And so, I had a parent come to me and go, "Hey, um, man, I need to put my kid in a travel team. He's 6 years old because, I don't want him to miss out." And I'm like, "Dude, go put him in rec soccer. After that, put him in rec baseball. After that, have him join the chess club. Like, who cares? Just go play sports." But these parents have that FOMO. They're seeing everything else on Instagram. They're seeing that amazing 6-year-old who can hit a golf ball 300 yards, and they're like, "Oh man, I blew it. My kid can't play golf now." And so I think it's just the access to the information that our parents just they didn't have the privilege of, but they also didn't have to deal with um, that as well. And so I think that's why your parent and my parent are parented different than we have.
Very good. So let's talk. I want to stay on those two because I like professionalism and pressure. And I think if we can help parents navigate those two. And again, as you guys have said, like there's some good things coming out of all this, like the professionalism of it. There's some good things coming out of that. And if your kid wants to just play baseball at 10 years old, there's now avenues where you can do that and you can pay money and have them get trained up and strength training, nutrition, whatever you want. So there's some good stuff to that. And I don't think we need to even necessarily talk about the good versus the bad, but let's hit both of those, starting with professionalism. Like, how do we navigate that as parents?
So, yeah, gosh, I wish there was a one-liner, right? Wouldn't that be real easy? Podcast over. Here's the answer. Bye. You know,
Mic drop. Yeah.
uh, but I think a lot of it for I know for me, and I believe for Kevin also, like the bottom line, it comes down to relationship. So I can't force my kid to go into something. I mean, I could. That's wrong. I shouldn't force my kid to go into something that they hate and is going to end up being a real issue later on in life because you will play basketball because I played basketball and you will love it. Like that's like I need to know my kids. I need to spend time with them. I need to listen to what's going on. I need to ask questions. So, I think as we navigate that, first you start with relationship. There's a part that we talk about in the chapter on feedback. That feedback is really two words. It's feed and then back. You get fed first. So as parents, a lot of times, I know sometimes it's challenging. I want to, as a coach, as a parent, I know the answer. I want to give it to them, do it now, actually do it yesterday, like let's go. But that whole idea of, okay, I'm going to ask you a question or we're going to hang out and I'm going to listen first. I'm going to listen and I'm going to observe and then I'm going to give something back to you. But a lot of times when we're trying to give and guide our kids through the sports choices, we're not listening first. We're not springing from relationship first, right? And I think that's important. And you don't have to compromise your values or your convictions as a parent to do that. But I think understanding them and what's going on in that young little 10-year-old brain and what they're thinking and feeling, if you hear it, you can actually address things more appropriately. So I think that's a big part of it. I'm personally a proponent of multiple sports. That doesn't mean that's right for everybody, right? So I just want my kids playing different sports. I'd love it if they play 3 sports for a while, and then as they get into high school, they can choose. That's cool. But if they end up opting out of it, that's great. But we want, for us, our parenting to be our values and convictions will not budge. Our standards and expectations won't change, but we're going to have a relationship because we want their passion to be their passion that we feed into and support. But yeah, I always go back to relationship. That's a big thing for us.
Really good. Kevin, thoughts?
Yeah. I think how do you navigate professionalism in sports? First is you need to find your success. And what are you trying to get out of this? And so if you're approaching this and you want to say, hey, for success is that my child is an NBA player or a NFL player, then define that success. And that's a value to you and your family. And then you navigate how you get there. Um, and and then if your definition of success is I'll give you a broad one is a fully functioning adult who is an asset to society and the community around him. Right? That's my for my kid. I want a kid who's fully functioning adult. He can walk out into society when I'm done raising him. He's an asset to the people around him. He's an asset to the community. And so what does that look like? Okay, it's going to have a strong character. He's going to be hardworking, right? So I'm going to define what those successes are, and I'm going to let youth sports be the navigate how to reach those success. Um, and then now I will also say part of my success beyond just athletics is I want to have a great relationship with my kid. And that's important to me. I want to enjoy being around him. And so if I'm in an environment where that's not happening, then I need to reevaluate, am I being successful? Because if I'm defining success is that this sports journey is one where I get to build a relationship with my child and have everlasting memories that are positive, and I'm not, then because I have a definition of what success is, now I have to reevaluate. And so, how do you deal with professionalism? Well, let's take a step back, define what your success is and what do you want to get out of it. And then, as you navigate those, then I think that you will be able to say, you know what? Yeah, maybe he shouldn't do tennis year round. We're only going to do it for 6 months because the other 6 months, I want him to develop others. I want to be part of team sports because that's important for us to learn how to navigate that as a team. So that's how I'd start it. What define the success, navigate through that, and then really success falls back to your values and your beliefs and your expectations and your standards that we outline in that book that Alex talked about.
Love it.
And Travis, if I could throw something in there, man, I don't know if you know this, but my dad had a stroke in October. And so your dad's a little older than mine. I'm glad that he's still fighting, man. Your dad's tough. But your dad's a little older than mine. My dad just turned 86, so he's still alive. But in October, he had a stroke, and I had to rush to the hospital. And the doctor sent me home to get the living will, which is, even though my dad's had massive heart surgery in 2002 and has been fighting diabetes, you're still never ready, right? So I rush home to get the living will. It was surreal. I'm just kind of like, it's almost like an out of body, like, what's going on right now? What am I doing? Go back to the hospital, send my mom home so she can rest. I'm like, I'll stay with him tonight. I'll stay by the bed. Don't worry, you get some sleep. And Kevin and I had finished most of the book, and I had to write the epilogue. And it was at 2 a.m. I'm sitting next to him, man, where just he's unconscious. Like he hasn't been up the whole time. He's just been knocked out. And, hearing the hospital beeps in the background, and I'm like, this is it. This is the epilogue. Because before I was a father, I was a son. And I'm sitting here in this hospital room at 2 a.m., grateful that my dad was the way that he was with me, grateful for the good memories that I have. And when my time comes and I'm in that bed, I want my kids to feel towards me the way that I feel towards my dad. And so for me, it always comes back to relationship. Man, if my kid ends up becoming Michael Phelps and breaks all his records, that's awesome. But if he never wants to talk to me and he has all those records and I don't get to see my grandkids, I don't want him to be Michael Phelps. That's me, right? That's my value system. And so for us, it always comes back to that relationship. Like, I just want good things for him, man. Character and good memories. And if they're successful in sports and go a long ways, awesome. And if they're not, awesome. What are they like as a person?
Love it. You guys crushed that. Really good. How about the pressure piece? How can parents help their sons or daughters navigate that piece of it? Alex.
Yeah, I love taking it head on. And first, I think the first part of it is us not applying pressure on them to perform in a way that we want out of some pride, right? That you're representing my name, so you need to strike out 12 today or something. Have some kind of something weird that way. That we shouldn't put that pressure on them. Now, that type of performance pressure is different than the character pressure. So what do I mean? So I'm not a baseball guy. I played to my junior year in high school, and I don't even remember any of the drills. I was a basketball guy, so I'm concerned when my kids are playing baseball. I'm concerned with character. So the only thing they'll ever hear me yell about is they're strutting out on the field, right? When it's time to go take the field, you'll hear my voice go, "Run!" Right? But that's it. They know I love them, but our character is we honor the game. Like, be a good teammate. Right. So I feel like the pressure for the performance piece shouldn't come from us because they're going to have enough of that. But the standards for the character should remain the same throughout. And then the expectations for how we display that character become increasingly more specific as they age. So that's one. The second thing with the pressure that I think is really interesting. I don't know if you experience this, Travis, but I know your kids are great baseball players. I remember feeling this way. My kid was on the mound pitching. And again, my boys are young. They're 13 and 12 now. So I think they were like 10 and 9. And they're lefties and they got good arms. So they would strike a lot of kids out and in just little league. But I remember when they got into sticky situations, I would think, oh, good. This is a hard one. The bases are loaded. He's thrown a couple wild pitches. He's struggling right now. This is good for him. And I know that might sound counterintuitive to some people, but I want him to deal with certain amounts of pressure because my kids after that game, if they gave up a grand slam, if they did something wrong, if they made a mistake, or if they navigated through it, they had to deal with adversity and pressure in a situation that they don't get anywhere else in life. And this is part of the beauty of youth sports because they're going to come home to their parents who love each other and love them. They're going to come home to their middle-class home in Madison, Wisconsin, in their nice air-conditioned room or heated room, depending on the time of year. They're going to get a good meal. They're going to be loved. Like, life's going to be good. So I need them to experience some level of pressure and adversity because it absolutely is coming to them later in life. And while they're young and go through it, it's okay if they're crying. It's okay if they feel bad. That means they care. If it was their fault, something happened, they didn't perform, okay, let's talk about it. But I think that stepping into it, head on and dealing with it, yeah, this is kind of part of sports. It's all right, bud. Like, you're going to cost your team the game sometimes. I have. You're going to make this, and that part I think is good. But if the pressure's from us, like, you've only shot 9 of 11 at the free throw line, you should make all of them. Yeah, that's different. I think we're hurting them then.
Kevin.
I think as parents, if we understand our role in those moments, is one is when it comes to pressure, one is we have to help them embrace pressure, right? So I think as a parent, when they're navigating those situations, is how as a young man or a young woman you're embracing that moment. Second would be how do you navigate pressure, right? So as pressure's coming, our job is to help them navigate those situations. So sometimes it's before a big game, right? And they're feeling the pressure of being the best player on the team, and you have to navigate them. Okay, what do you have to do here, right? Feeling that okay, yeah, that's not your burden to have, bud. That's the coach's burden. You need to go out here and do this, this, and this. So it's embracing and then navigating, and then as parents, it's applying. Sometimes as parents, we need to apply pressure appropriately. And I think the situations we get into parents is we allow that passion that we have to then turn into unneeded pressure. Now, there's times as a parent where I'm going to sit here, I'm going to evaluate the situation and go, you know what? My son isn't being pressured enough. He's not put in a situation where he needs to be pushed. So as a parent, I'm going to take him here. I'm going to put him over here so I can apply pressure to him. And I think that's thoughtfulness, and that's proper parenting. But I also think that a lot of parents, we get caught up in so much passion. And what we've said multiple times is, as parents, it's easy for our passion to become our child's burden. And we don't want that to be a burden for them. We don't want that burden to become pressure to them where they end up burning out, where they end up quitting the sport. But I think if we can navigate our passion for really the love for them to say, okay, I love them. And out of that love, I'm going to put them in pressure situations so they can embrace it and they can navigate it. So when that pressure happens again, they're not going to need mom and dad, because at the end of the day, pressure comes in all sorts of ways. Right now, I'm at work, I have pressure. Now, am I gonna fold, right? Am I gonna wanna go home and sit the bench? Or am I gonna rise to the occasion and step up and hit the big shot, right? To make the big call in the environment that I'm set in as an adult. And so that's what, as parents, is you gotta embrace the pressure because you can't run from it. You gotta embrace it, help them navigate it. And at times we have to apply pressure for them and put them in pressure situations. And so that would be my 2 cents on that.
Really good. If it was just that easy all the time, huh, fellas?
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, yeah, those are just great. You guys crush kind of, in my mind, to summarize, like, you have to have this foundation, right? You have to have your values and your beliefs. And if you haven't thought about those, written those down, communicated those with your sons or daughter, like, it's going to be, if you're trying to do this day to day, it's going to be a train wreck for everybody. So, and I talk about this a lot. I'm sure you guys find this, these conversations with our sons or daughters, in my case, my sons, are the best conversations that I have. They truly are. Like, what are we really trying to do here? What is the big picture? And some of the great, and we go to games. My younger son, Drew, his season just ended. He was playing summer baseball in Cape Cod. He's coming home tonight. I'm looking forward to the conversation about, what was your growth? What did you learn from this? What was the great things? What was the, the things that you want to continue to work on? But he knows that that's the conversation we're going to have. It's not about, uh, this was your batting average over the summer, you threw out this many guys, or, if he wants to talk about those, like, things like, I want to get better in those areas, awesome, I'll do what I can. At this point, he's now in college, so that's very little, but I can help him. So, wonderfully said. Did you guys have anything? So we'll start wrapping this baby up. Alex, you look like you're chomping at the bit. Look at you.
Yeah. I love, this is part of something I love about sports is it teaches you so much. And I love that, there'll be a lot of parents who go like, oh, I'm not a leader. And I get it, but you're a leader of your family. And so you can't avoid that. Right. And I see so much between parenting and coaching, and I've been able to lead some business organizations now since I stopped coaching, and I see such an overlap. And part of it of being a leader is that, like, as a coach, say, when you start the season, you want to think towards your end goal and then reverse engineer backwards and plan for it in advance, right? So what that allows me to do when I set that goal and then go backwards in the steps, and how are we going to get there, and what does that look like here, and plan out my season with intentionality based on my values and beliefs, that allows me to be responsive and not reactive. That allows me to control my own emotions better, because I don't know if you guys have ever lost it with your kids, but I know about Kevin because he's told me, but I know I have.
I've been
Yeah. Yeah. And what usually, to me, I'm more prone to be emotionally reactive when something happens that I haven't thought about. It gets me off guard.
Mhm.
Right. But if I've taken time to step back and go with intentionality, okay, what do I want this year to look like? And then try to reverse engineer and just plan it out. Now I can be responsive. Now I can go, and obviously not 100% of the time for everything, but it can eliminate a lot of the stuff where I might be having to say sorry for going full on Bobby Knight when Bobby Knight didn't need to show up in my home, And so I just think as we plan all this out, like, everybody who keeps listening to, keep listening, right? Because there's always nuggets in here. As we work through what we're trying to accomplish with our kids, take that time, step back a little bit and go, okay, what are we really trying to do here? my last thing I'll share, I know my mom and dad, on their 40th wedding anniversary years ago, I asked my mom, I'm like, "So mom, you guys have made it 40 years, still married. That's amazing." Like that's like half the population doesn't get to do that. Half the married population, right? So what did you do? Like, give me some advice here. What would you do different? And I asked her because I wanted to learn from mistakes because I'd seen a lot of the good stuff. She goes, "Well, I think we would have stepped back and taken more perspective breaks because life can get so fast and you're doing so much and you're flying all over the place, and then all of a sudden a few years later you go, how did we get here?" And this is my mom, who most of their married life we didn't have cable. It means I'm old. Okay. They didn't have internet, but life got so fast for them. So how about us now? How about with more opportunities? How about we just give ourselves a little time to step back and pause, and with your spouse, or if you're a single parent, go, okay, what do I want to accomplish here? Let's take this time and go back, and that'll allow me to be more positively reactive than flying off the handle for something that caught me off guard.
Love it. Really good. I think it's great to, and Kevin, I was just thinking about you since you're going to be coaching your son here coming up. I'm with you 100%, Alex. When I wasn't prepared, bad things would happen. So I would try to do this coaching my kids, and I'd sit down with them, their goals, my goals, season by season. And then each day so I coached both my sons and through high school even. So it was a long journey, and it went best when I had goals with them. They might have some of their own. We might have mixed goals, what our relationship was going to be like through the season. But every day I would show up and I would have a notebook and write down, here's where I'm going to place my focus today for every practice, every game. And when I did that, it totally kept me in check. I totally knew that getting mad at the umpire was not a part of what I wanted to do. Singling out a kid and getting mad at him for a performance related whatever, that's not who I wanted to be. So, Kevin, just thinking about you, like, man, and I'm sure you're going to do some of this stuff, but something that really truly helped me day to day. And it was probably, I coached my kids for, had to have been 15 years, right? At least from T-ball through high school, two of them. And so just thought, Kevin, anything you want to lend in here as we wrap this baby up?
Well, you said something. You said, "Oh, it's that easy." And when it comes to parenting, and obviously it was said as a jest, but it becomes easier, right? It becomes easier. And I say this is Alex just finished talking about kind of defining your goals, right, with the end in mind. And I think my wife and I call this pre-parenting, is we parent before we have to parent. We try to get in front of it. And one of the easiest ways we figured that out is you have the end in mind and you have your values, and then you put filters in place based on those. And then every decision that you make is now not made based on emotions, it's based on the filters. And so if you have an emotion that goes against that filter, well, it probably goes against the values that you have set as your family and the goals that you're striving for. And so it becomes easier when you have those filters in place. So when you approach a situation, when it comes to pressure, for example, if I approach it going, hey, I know today my son is going to be in a pressure situation. I need to help him navigate that. Right. So now as a parent, I'm walking into that. And then before the game, I can pull him aside and go, okay, but hey, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to get in front of that because I've thought through it all. And so one of our parenting values is we want to get in front of things before they become a big deal. And so we want to tackle them early on. And since it's a value of ours and it's a filter, I'll look at a situation, I'll go, you know what? I want to get ahead of that. It's important to us. And that's just something we do. But no, parenting will never be easy, but can always become easier. And easier, and one way to do that is to define the success, the end goal, where you want to end up. Look at your values, what are important to you as your family, identify filters that you put in those moments. And then as you have an emotional decision, don't make an emotional decision, throw it through the filters and let the filters play it out. And so that's my last thoughts for you guys.
That's beautiful. And as you guys are talking, I know it's super powerful for us as parents, but you're also mirroring that for your kids, right?
Yeah.
And they're learning about this process and they're seeing that dad's doing this. I think as parents, we can put too much. Our kids don't see us doing these things. We expect them to do it, but they don't see us. And I know you guys talk about this in the book too, right? Like we have to mirror the things that we want from our kids. And I'm still doing that with the 22 and 20-year-old, thinking about being mindful of what do I want them to learn, see, do. And again, I don't have as much say as you guys do with your kids at their ages, but I think as parents as a whole, we can take a little bit more ownership in that piece of it. Like I've got to show them how to do this. I've got to take accountability for doing this. And then we have, again, great conversations and they see us doing it and they're like, man, maybe that's a good way to do this instead of just telling them what to do. Really good. Let's wrap this baby up. Thank you guys so much. Some super powerful messaging. And obviously you guys are very mindful, thoughtful about these things. I think that comes across obviously. Alex, tell us if you got wrap it up, but also tell us like where people can find the book or learn more about you guys going forward.
Yeah, well, I'll let Kevin handle the details. I always mix up where to best find us.
Okay.
But yeah, I with the modeling, sorry, because I think we could talk for 4 hours, man. I'm really enjoying this. I do want to share this one last thing, and then Kevin can share about where to follow us. But one of my favorite teachers, I heard share some wisdom that I really feel applies to parenting. He said, when I'm getting ready to teach, I don't try to learn it for the people. I learn it for me, and I try to really get it down in me. And then when I've learned that thing, now I have a lot to give. And my teaching got way better when I started trying to approach that. So with the modeling certain behaviors for us as parents, I know none of us will be perfect. It's okay. This isn't to be pressure on us. But if we can learn it for ourselves first, maybe you're not a great planner, right? As a parent. Okay, that's not a problem. That's cool. Like, I'm with you. Just take your first steps. Go through it. What you're actually modeling is, I'm not great at this thing, but I'm going to give it a shot, right? And you learn it for you and try to do it for you. Now it's easier to share experientially with your kids and not just empty words that don't have weight behind them. And I think that's really powerful. And I know people could say, like, do you know how busy I am? Do you know what I'm doing? Like, I totally get it. I'm with you. Right. That's all of us. I also got 3 kids who are in multiple sports, and I'm running a business, and we've got this book, and, but if you can find those perspective breaks to learn for yourself first, it'll be easier to model and more natural. So, yeah.
Love it. Kevin, bring us home.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me on. And Alex, it's been a joy. And Alex is right. I think conversations like this is because I think we're all so passionate about it. We can continue going on and on about it. But I will tell you, you can get our book. It's easily found on Amazon. You can get the hard copy. We do have an audiobook as well, and also a Kindle edition on Amazon. And then we're both on Instagram. I'm just Kevin Delafu, and Alex is Alex Compton USPH. And so we love to see you guys there. We also have an Instagram called Parenting Athletes. And so you can see some of our other podcasts and clips that we've done, and just some thoughtful things that we're throwing out there as well. So Instagram is a great place. And Alex is also on LinkedIn as well. And so am I. So you can find us on there.
Love it. So I'm going to hold up the book as well. I am going to strongly recommend the audio version, which Alex did. If you want to hear some passion and some fire, go to the audiobook version. You'll get that. Not that I didn't like the book as well, but maybe it's because we know each other, Alex. I don't know, but the audiobook was like, oh God, like, okay. So great job with the book, guys. Congratulations. This has been super fun. Let's stay in touch, and maybe we won't do a 4-hour podcast, but maybe we do 4 1-hour podcasts and dive in a little bit deeper throughout it. So really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us, Travis. Appreciate you, man.